Bruins Beat is brought to you by Prize Picks.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat, presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And of course, we're presented by CLNS Media. Make sure to go subscribe to Bruins Ringside on YouTube. We got a lot of great stuff, podcasts all the time, Bruins Beat, Pucks with Haggs, Poke the Bear all season long, all off season long, analysis, all that great stuff. You don't like looking at us and you just like listening. Maybe you drive, you're running, or maybe you're just like, man, those guys are really ugly. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from, Apple, Spotify, Podbean, or wherever it is. And then there's lots of other great stuff at CLNS, be it Patriots Press Pass, Celtics All Access, that you can go check out. I'm Evan Marinofsky, and today's a special day. First-time guest, Andrew Fantucchio from Boston Hockey Now. Andrew, what is up?
What's going on, Evan? Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you on. If I am not mistaken, your father was an usher at TD Garden, right? You grew up going there?
Yeah, so my dad's been an usher at the Garden since, as long as I can remember. He was a single parent. So growing up, he would kind of bring me and my younger brother in with him to work sometimes. And we go and have to do our homework underneath the stands, being like the break room, do our homework, rush through that. And then we could finally, go and find him and sit in his section and hang out there. And it's kind of a lot's come full circle for me to now be on the beat covering the Bruins full time. So it's still pretty fun. I get to go to work with my dad every day.
That's sick. And the coolest part is, as a kid, nobody wants to do homework. What a deadline that must have been. Like, I got 45 minutes. I got to finish up these math problems, or else I'm not watching the game tonight.
Not a lot of homework really got done anyways. I just fill in the answers, and you're like, that's fine. As long as there was something on the page, he was happy.
Yeah. And then you could go watch the game. Would you watch it with him from his perch?
Yeah. So, he would let us know before the game, right? This is where my section is. And then me and my little brother, we would, as soon as we were both done, we go find the section and we sit there. If his section was full, he had a friend in another section. We go sit there, so we found our way around the Garden. When I first came into the building, joined the beat last year, Bruins PR came and he's like, if you need any help, find your way around the building or knowing things are. I was like, nah, I'm good. I promise you, I know where everything is.
I've been coming here a long time. I know the underbelly of this place, no problem. That's so interesting. And then you went to Hofstra, correct?
Yes, went to Hofstra on Long Island. After kind of doing a couple of years of community college, I realized I just need to get out of Boston just for a little bit, just my own kind of personal development. And that was kind of put me on the track to where I am now.
Hell yeah, dude. Happy to have you. You're the second year on the beat, right? Or is it your
second year on the beat? Third year covering the NHL, second year with the Bruins.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. And it's easy because you get to go to work with your dad every day. That is very awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Training camp so far. I want to talk about the lines. Seems like lines are starting to form, at least in that group A. I'll run through them real quick. You got Morgan Geekie on the left, Lindholm, Pastrnak, line 1, Blumel, Zacha, Arvidsson, line 2, Patra, Middlestat, Janot, line 3, AC Montcorelli, Kastelik, 4, and then you have Husendinov, Mitten, and Duran on sort of the extra skater line. First and fourth, I'm not shocked at. Fourth line to me makes a lot of sense. Bruiser, hard forechecking. I don't think that's a huge surprise. And the first line isn't much of a surprise either with Pastrnak, Geekie, and Lindholm. It's that middle six that's really interesting because you can sort of mix and match. There are, guys like a Husendinov could factor in there. Minton could factor in there at some point. What's your take so far on those middle six lines?
I think, like you said, there's a lot of pieces that can be mixed around, and I don't think that middle six is going to stay what it looks like right now. I wouldn't be surprised if by the second week of the season there's a slight change here or there, but it all depends on who Marco Sturm sees as his centers. Obviously, you have Elias Lindholm, who's your number 1, but who's 2 and who's 3? Right now, it's Zacha as your 2 and Middlestat as your 3, and that's because at the end of the day, Sturm wants guys he knows he can trust, guys who he knows are going to get back, play defense, and play that reliable brand of Bruins hockey that this team is trying to get back to. And that's Zacha to a T. So that's why I think you see Zacha playing in the middle right now as opposed to on the wing, where I think if you're trying to tease as much offense out of this team, Zaka's a wing. But for right now, early on, especially when we don't know if this team is going to be the defensive-minded team that Sturm wants, he's putting Zaka in the middle, which in turn bumps guys like Middlestat down, which knocks a guy like Fraser Minton out of the lineup. I think it all depends on who is those kind of two middle, who are the two pivots in the middle six, and everything else kind of falls into place there.
It's so funny because like I get the idea of Zaka down the middle. And I understand where Sturm's coming from with that. But then there's also a part of me that's like, if your third line is going to be one that goes up against other teams' top lines. And again, we're going off the lines as they are today. They could be different, in the future. They could be different next week, but we're going off what they are now. If your third line is going to be what he wants, which is going up against other teams' top lines or, second line or whatever, is Middlestat the guy you want for that? I don't think he is. Like Middlestat to me is more of an offensive setup guy. He, high IQ or not high IQ, but good vision, all those things. And as a third line center, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. That's where I Middlestat is the 3C makes me wonder. Cause to me, like I actually like Middlestat should be on that second line somewhere to me, or at the very least should have wingers who are more shot first, who ironically that's Blumel. Like Blumel actually makes more sense, at least stylistically, with a guy like Middlestat. And I get that it's early and they're, Zaka and Blumel have their connection. And I completely get that. You want to make the guy feel comfortable. I get that. But on the ice, Middlestat makes more sense with Blumel. And that would actually probably make more sense either as a second line, or you switch the role of the third line and say the third line is going to just be sort of a souped down second line, and they're not going to be going up against other teams' top lines. And then Blumel, Jeannot and Middlestat if you want on that third line. So that middle six to me, that's where I've had question marks, especially Middlestat not being with shot first wingers.
Well, I think you're absolutely right there because you saw with Middlestat and Blumel, they had good connection already. You saw it in that Ranger game in the preseason. Yep. Middlestat with a really nice pass that set up that opening goal by Blumel. And it's funny because right now, I couldn't tell you what the identity of this third line is. It's Jeannot, Middlestat, and Patra. Three guys that on paper shouldn't really work together. Middlestat and Patra, both pass first playmakers. Neither one of them is particularly hard in their own end. And then you got Jeannot out there to just run over people and protect them. I mean, fine. I don't want to throw dump on Tanner Jeannot because I think he's pretty much locked into that third line left wing role. But yeah, Middlestat and Patra together is definitely an interesting one. I think Sturm sees that as a combination that can add some speed. But in terms of much else, I don't know. Because one of those guys is going to have to shoot the puck.
Yep. Yeah, they will. And Jeannot's interesting because, like, I'm more of the new school mentality where, like, I don't fully believe in, like, oh, Jeannot's on the ice, I'm not going to finish my checks. Or I'm not going to, take a shot at someone. It still happens. You don't have to drop your gloves, and the Panthers have proven that. But I get the idea of Matt Patra's out there. He's not great at protecting himself. Maybe Jeannot is somewhat of a deterrent, right?
I mean,
like maybe.
Sorry, but like I was watching it, against the Rangers, against the Cap. It feels like, you hear about guys who go out and seek contact. Contact seeks Matt Patra. It feels like every time he's on the ice, and I'm not saying this to dump on him. Like, it's just a matter of the fact. It feels like every time he's on the ice, he ends up, getting knocked over or taking some vicious looking hit. And I feel for the guy. I'm not saying this to dump on him at all. It just feels like every time he's out there, he's getting the crap kicked out of him. So maybe that's sort of what it is.
He is. And I like Patra's game. I like it. Like, I want to see him in the lineup. I want him playing. I think his vision's great. I think his IQ's great. It's just protect yourself a little more. Don't be so open and vulnerable. And that's where I worry with him and staying healthy. I mean, he drew 3 penalties in that game against the Caps in the first preseason game, and 2 of them he got up slowly after. And it's like that scares you. That's a preseason game. And that worries me a little. In terms of the preseason as a whole, be it camp, be it the games, what have been some of your main takeaways? What's kind of top of mind for you from what we've seen so far?
This Bruins team is still, I mean, it's hard because you don't want to put too much stock into preseason games, obviously. Mm-hmm. But in the first 2, the things that I've noticed are issues that plagued this team last year have already come up. Stuff like, okay, they score a goal. Less than a minute later, they give up one. Stuff that happened. I mean, as Ty Anderson knows, he's done it. How many times, like that list, I felt bad for the guy watching.
Run it back, Ty. Run it back.
Exactly.
Need the list again.
So,
you're on it again. That's your beat, Ty. Get on that.
Stuff like that. Giving up shorthanded goals, not scoring on the power play, getting down early, and committing defense. Just really basic defensive lapses in their own end that lead to goals. Basic fundamental things that became a reoccurring issue last year have already come up twice. It happened against the Capitals, and it started against the Rangers. Now, obviously, the Bruins came back, and that was a thing where you said, oh, okay, maybe there is something to this Bruins team. And it was really great to see them kind of fight back and stay in it. But you kind of hope that all that other stuff, all that baggage died with the 2024-25 campaign. And it's still kind of lingering around. And again, it's only 2 games, it's only 2 preseason games. We can get into the regular season and not be an issue. But the fact that it's already come up so soon, a little worrying to me.
It is. I think seeing some of your guys that are going to be in the top 6 on D have defensive lapses, I agree with you, I think is jarring. And yes, that can work out over time, but it is worry. I mean, again, we're going off of what we've seen so far. You don't want that to become a trend with guys that are getting paid well, that are supposed to be the strength of your team, which is on defense. You can't have guys be consistently losing puck battles, consistently losing net front battles, and having missed assignments. I agree with you. I think that's been a big thing. Another thing that's struck me through 2 games, through camp, and I have not been to every single training camp. I was there a lot last week. I wasn't there much this week. You have been, so maybe you can attest to this better than I can. But no young guys are really separating themselves. And, Blumel's really the one. He had a goal against the Rangers. I don't think he's a great skater. I think his shot is his main thing. That is, he is out there to score goals. And, I think this is the kind of lineup where you can give a guy like that some runway and let him sort of get, comfortable and sort of cook, so to speak. But other than that, I mean, I've liked Fraser Minton, but the production hasn't been there, which is something that I think he, has acknowledged that he needs to work on. Patra, Lysell, sort of those young guys to me have not, like, someone has not broken. It has not been Patra 2 years ago where it's like, holy crap, we can't send this guy back. We've got to keep him here. There has not been any of that so far of young guys separating themselves. And I think you even look at a guy like Fabian Lysell, who isn't on any of the power play units, isn't in Group A, isn't anywhere in those 5 lines I just mentioned. When he was overtime the other night against the Rangers, wasn't on the ice for those power plays. Like, I again, just haven't seen enough, I think, from these young guys.
No, and I think, when Don Sweeney went out and he made these additions over the summer, one thing everyone was kind of freaking out, like, oh my God, they're blocking guys like Lysell, like Patra, all these young guys from taking that next step. And I said, well, if those guys can't beat out some of these veterans in camp, it says way more about them than does the Bruins. And I think it's starting to show, like, all right, Lysell just isn't ready. Minton maybe just isn't ready. And he's the one where I'm kind of surprised by, because you think if the Bruins want to play that, hard down the middle style, that caters to Fraser Minton's skill set. He can come in. He doesn't have to score a ton of goals because he'll kill penalties for you. He can be the center on that third line to be more of a matchup guy, which why I think is very interesting that it's Middlestat right now, not him. But obviously, Stern wants to tease as much offense as possible out of this. So I don't know. It's kind of a what am I? It feels like they're kind of talking out of both sides of their mouth here with this lineup.
Yeah, I also wonder, like, it has been years of sort of those young prospects they've drafted, and some have made it. Low-rise made it. Patra has played a fair number of NHL games. Like, they're getting time. But I do wonder if there is merit to, every year they preach internal competition. And most years, those young guys don't ever beat out those veteran guys they bring in this internal competition. And I just wonder, like, is there a problem with the development? Or is there a problem with the idea of, like, maybe it's a new generation of players. Maybe they play better knowing, all right, my margin for error is not as thin as it is if they bring in other guys. I'm not saying that's right, but I just wonder if that is something, because it has become a trend, especially with guys like Lysell or Merkulov, where they can't just get over the line. They can't make themselves regulars. And even at the end of last season, Lysell was brought up. It wasn't until the last couple games that he looked comfortable and was making an impact. Merkulov had a shorter leash. I think it was like a couple games in the middle of the season, if memory serves. So like that to me is the thing where I do wonder, and I'm not saying that's wrong because I agree, you needed some of those free agent signings. You needed culture guys, a Corrali and AC Mont. I get that. I just wonder if at times they've gone too far with those signings. I'm not, and even like Steves and Blumel, I'm not saying don't go sign those guys. I just wonder if it has a negative impact on those younger guys. And the other, again, I'm talking out both sides of my mouth with this next point, which is the counter to that is you got to overcome that. If you want to play in the NHL, you got to be able to have competition for spots. I just wonder if at times they've gone too far.
It definitely does not feel like the hype of internal competition, I don't think has been met. I don't think it's been nearly as intense of a competition as the Bruins said they were looking for or what they were hoping for, period. Like you said, Lysell kind of hasn't really shown up in these first 2 preseason games. I thought in the first handful of practices, he was getting in the forecheck. He was being a little bit more physical, but he wasn't, he hasn't stood out otherwise. Yeah, I don't know. You're kind of you're waiting for that guy to pop because he has all the skills in the world. He can fly. He's good on the puck, but can he do it at the NHL level? Like he kind of only started to figure that out at the tail end of last year when the Bruins at the end basically kind of phoned it in at that point.
The spot for him is third line right wing. That would be the spot for him to come in if he was excelling in camp and he was making it impossible for them not to play him in the preseason. He would be on that third line right wing where Patra is currently. Like that would be the spot. Shot first guy next to Middlestat. Like
it's always felt like those two were direct comp. I don't think the Bruins organization is big enough for both a Patra and a Lysell. I just don't think there is. I think if you at one point or another, one of them's got to make the roster. The other one, I don't know. I mean, how much longer can you stuff Fabian Lysell down in the AHL for? Or, is Patra really ready to take on that NHL role? And I just wonder, one of those guys has to pop. And if neither one does, then there's some real issues. I mean, fortunately, this last draft class the Bruins had should be much better than what they've had in terms of draft prospects over the last few years. At the same time, we have to wait and see.
My guess is they hold on to Patra. Patra makes more sense. He's more their type of player. He's proven a little bit more at the NHL level. I wonder with Lysell. I wonder if his camp's like, look, can we please get moved? Can I please have a fresh start somewhere? You're not going to get much for him. I always see fans kind of being like, well, what if you threw like a package around Lysell? You go get like, Elias Pettersson. It's like, no, like that ship sailed. Like, what are you getting for Lysell? A fourth, a fifth? Like you're not getting much. And it's for him, it's a completely it's a fresh start type thing. And
there's rumors of that over the summer that they were starting to kind of shop him a little bit. How true or I don't know. I didn't come from any I would say concrete sources.
Mm-hmm.
But you heard those rumblings that the Bruins are kind of getting ready to shop him or looking to see what they could get for him.
It'll be interesting to see. And what he does in Providence to start the year and how they sort of navigate that. I want to get more into what we need to see out of these coming games, some other roster thoughts. But first, our friends over at Prize Picks. This episode's brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. We're recording this on a Friday, meaning Football Sunday is right around the corner. I got my Prize Picks. I'm doing a power play this week. Jalen Hurts, more than 0.5 passing yards. Thank you, Prize Picks, for the 99% discount. I'm taking that every time. Drake May, more than 214.5 pass yards. I like that. They're playing the Panthers. He should have no problem completing that. And then I got Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end for the Lions, more than 0.5 sacks. I got the little green guy. So it's a good deal for me. So I did that. I took the power play. You can do the flex play too and only get 2 of 3 right and still get some money back. But I'm doing my 3 of 3, my power play. It's simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you can cash in. Prize Picks is also the best way to get action on sports. More than 40 plus states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Who does not like to be right? So Prize Picks doing great things over there. I have a roster thought. This has come to my head in the last couple of weeks. On D with the D pairings, you got Low Ryan McAvoy, you got Lindholm and Peak, and you have Zdorov and Yoki Haru. Peak is a pending UFA at the end of the year. Haven't heard much on terms of contract extension or anything like that. And I do wonder if, they play this season the way that we think they're going to, which is middle of the pack, maybe bottom of the middle of the pack. We'll get your thoughts in a little bit on what you think they're going to be, because I realized I haven't asked you that. But if they are what I think they're going to be, which is middle of the pack, and Andrew Peak is a top 4 defenseman, and he plays well, and he's elevated by Hampus Lindholm, but they get to the deadline and they say, we're not going to extend him because we have Yoki Haru, we have McAvoy on that right side, but we're not making the playoffs, so let's sell him. And you're selling on a top 4 right shot defenseman. I wonder if Andrew Peak has a good year and he's, plays well next to Hampus Lindholm in the top 4, I wonder what you can get for a guy like that at the deadline if things go sort of how we think they're going to go this season.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think you saw it last year when the Bruins traded Brandon Carlo. They got a haul back. They got a first round pick, Fraser Minton, and there was one other asset in there that I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think it was a future second or
something like that. It was a mid-level draft, somewhere between the second and fifth rounds. But yeah, I mean, it's no secret. A sturdy right shot defenseman is a commodity in the NHL these days. They typically, if ever, do not hit the market. So for the Bruins, yeah, I mean, it actually makes sense that you would trade Andrew Peak. Now, the one caveat with Peak, unlike Carlo, is Peak doesn't have a proven track record of top 4 minutes. He's always been a bottom 2 pairing, or he was a healthy scratch a few times with his Columbus. He's only kind of just now in the last few years since coming over to Boston, kind of grown into an everyday defenseman. But you do see the potential. You see the tool set. It's all there. I just wonder. I think the Bruins could absolutely get something back for him at the deadline, especially because we know prices at that time of year are crazy, and GMs hoping to make a playoff run will give up will give up pretty much anything. I would say you could get something back for him. I would just maybe not as good of a Carlo, because also remember Carlo had another 2 years, had another year on his deal left at the time.
No question. You're not getting a top-end prospect, a first-rounder, and I looked it up while you were talking. A 2025 fourth was the other part of that deal. You're not getting all that. You're not. Can you get a second? Can you maybe get a second and a prospect?
100%.
Could you get a team to give you a low first? Like, again, you said it, Andrew. Like, teams are desperate at the deadline. That's a potential top 4 right shot defenseman. Peak is not lighting the world on fire, but he can kill penalties. He can play tough minutes. If he does that throughout the season and you get to the deadline and it's like, all right, we're selling, you're going to have teams who are like, we need our right side bolstered on D, because he can either be in your top 4 if you're a playoff team, or better yet, as your third pairing right shot defenseman. And I just wonder, like, again, we said it, like, it's not going to be a first and a top prospect, but is it a mid-level prospect and a second, which is more than you gave up for him, I believe. And is it a top end prospect and a fourth or something like that? You get something, you bolster yourself a little bit. Like, same with Arvidsson too. If Victor Arvidsson has a good season, he's a pending UFA as well, and you're not planning on bringing him back as a speedy shot first middle 6 winger. Like, those guys go at the deadline. And I know people are maybe like sitting there listening, being like, what the hell are these guys talking about? Those guys, we don't like those guys. It's like, no, like, at the deadline, teams are desperate.
Teams
and
get
that's
stupid
where those huge
at the deadline.
packages come from. Yes.
Teams get stupid at the deadline. I think, if anything, Arvidsson's even more likely to get moved. It's not a guy the Bruins have, kind of had in the room for a long. There should be a giant neon sign above Victor Arvidsson's locker right now that says "not here for the full season." He's going to. I don't know. It just seems it makes too much sense for a guy like Victor Arvidsson. If this season goes the way you seem to think it was, and I'm kind of in line with you. I think best case scenario, they are they're competing for a wild card, might squeak in as the 8th seed, final wild card team in the East, but a lot has to go right. So much has to go right for this Bruins team for them to reach this ceiling this year.
I was talking about this with some friends the other day. Like, there's so many things that have to go right for them to just be a wild card team. Like, you need Morgan Geekie to not regress. You need Pastrnak to be, 85 plus points, 90 plus points. You need Elias Lindholm to be much better. You need him to be sort of what he was in the final 2 months of last year. You need Swayman to have a huge bounce back here. You need your D, Hampus Lindholm, Charlie McAvoy. You need those guys to have better seasons and to be advanced. You need Lowry to be much better. Like, you need some secondary scoring. You need some younger guys to pop. You need a lot to go right to be a team that's sniffing a wild card spot. And I know that they use it as motivation. Good on them. But I just don't see every single box being checked there for them to suddenly be like, oh, they're the 3rd seed in the Atlantic, or oh, they're in the wild card. Like, to me, they are picking like 12th next year in the draft. They are picking somewhere in that range. They're not bad. They're not a playoff team. They're sort of in that middle ground where the games aren't completely meaningless at the end of the season, but it's still around the deadline. Like, all right, sell your pending UFAs. That's what I think they are. But you said it, like, you need a lot to go right for this season to be successful.
I don't know if 12th is as high as I go for them in the draft. The way I see them being like what the Detroit Red Wings have been the last few years, hovering around, kind of that just mushy middle area. I feel like 12 is a little too high for I don't know.
Like, too bad or too good, you mean?
12 is 12 is
draft is tough. I know higher in the draft, but like
right.
Higher means
so
like
they would number. Be for that. I know what I want. I said how to phrase this.
I know what you mean. Like, I don't mean exactly 12. I mean, like, I feel like they're gonna pick somewhere from like 8 to 14. They're gonna be somewhere.
Okay, that's probably to put it in a range, but yeah, probably 14, 15, maybe one of like first or second team to sort of miss the playoff cut out of the wild, kind of in that range. Yeah, you're right.
That's that area then. That's a different area.
But yeah, I mean, and how much of those things go right? I don't know. I don't think you can look at this team and say, like, they'd have to bat 1,000, and just I don't think it's realistically it's just not possible.
My questions come up front because, like, I think Swayman does have a much better bounce back here. I think Pastrnak is going to put up a ton of points. Like, I think those two things I can confidently be like, yeah, I have a good feeling about those. It's everything else. And even like McAvoy will have a better year. Like, I that's a safe one. I don't think that's an insane one. But you get into like, is Morgan Geekie, can he put up 25 goals? I think playing with the guys he is, I think he should. But is that a guarantee? It wasn't prior to last year. So like, there are lots of things like that I'm like, oh man, that's a big question mark. That's a big question mark. I'm not saying they're not going to happen either. I'm just saying that the chances are not extremely high that they all happen.
No, of course. Like I said, they got about 1,000, and there's got to be, if anything, you need Pastrnak and McAvoy and Swayman to pull even more weight. And I think that's really what you have to hope for. Not that all those other guys or all those other things hit that baseline. It's that those things that are absolute certainties that you feel very confident in, those guys go above and beyond. Pastrnak did. It still blows my mind that with the year that the Bruins had as a team, David Pastrnak still put up 106 points.
Yeah.
Like, that blows my mind. He's going to have similar numbers. I think he will. I think Geekie, I don't know if 33 goals is in the cards, but, I think 25 to 28. I think Elias Lindholm will surprise some people this year and be closer to what the Bruins wanted him to be when he first signed.
Two things they need big time. Power play needs to be better. Not saying it needs to be top 5 in the league, but I'm saying, like, can you get to 20? Can you get to 19?
That's a low bar.
Yeah, it is a low bar. And can your goaltending be better? And if you can get those two things, you're in a better spot. But then it comes into play of individual performances that you need. Something you always need. Make sure to subscribe to Bruins Rinkside on YouTube. We have lots of stuff coming. Podcasts, all that great stuff all the time. And if you don't like watching us, you just want to listen, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from, Podbean, Apple, Spotify. And then there are lots of other great content at CLNS too. Celtics start up, Celtics All Access, Patriots Press Pass. They are in full swing. Patriots play every weekend, so make sure to go do all that over there. Big news, Andrew, this week, Alexander Barkov, they're fearing is out for the season. That's a huge hit for the Panthers, who are now going to start the year without Barkov and Matt Tkachuk. And I know Matt Tkachuk is like kind of like a December return. Barkov might never be back. Sucks seeing this. I mean, we all saw the video. Really unfortunate. And you never want to see anybody get hurt. I wonder, like, Barkov's obviously going on LTIR. They should have more cap space. They are the Florida Panthers. I would assume they do something to get them. I don't think they go the full season with just the roster that they have. To me, it makes more sense. Like, I wonder if and when they make a move. They have so many guys in their prime. They're kind of in the middle of a budding dynasty. I'm not saying they're dynasty, but they're in their moment. I wonder if they do anything.
Sorry, this thought just came in my head out of left field.
Please do it. No,
but what if? Just if we want to see hockey Twitter and the whole NHL world burn to the ground, what if the Panthers go out and trade for a player they've beaten twice in the Stanley Cup final each of the last 2 years?
I like that. That's
I
a good
wonder.
one.
I don't know. I don't think it'll happen.
I like that. Stuart Skinner would make a lot of sense on the Panthers. I like that.
No, not Stuart Skinner, but I mean, look, McDavid still doesn't have a contract. I don't think. I mean, look, it would take. God, what would it take to get McDavid from the Oilers? I don't know. If we really it makes. Hey, holy crap! I mean, McDavid wants to go to a winner. I mean, this is like, that'd be Kevin Durant joining the Warriors. That's what that would be.
No,
I don't know.
Same thing.
I don't think it would happen, but like, if you're asking me, like, what could the Panthers do? What would make sense for a team that just seems to go out and get whoever they want when they want and seems to get, make it work under the cap? I don't know. I mean, from purely just an entertainment perspective, I'd love to see that. I think that'd be so fun. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but if we're just throwing stuff out there, that's what I'm saying.
One can dream. I agree with you. I think it'd be really entertaining. I don't think the league would love it because it'd go to Florida, which is not a huge market for them, but the actual games themselves would be exciting as hell. I do think, like, if you want to do that trade, that would be a couple young roster players on the Panthers plus a bunch of future firsts. Like, I don't have the Panthers roster in front of me, but someone like that. Yeah. That's what that would look like. Like that.
It would have to be ridiculous.
But there's the other part of it too, though, where it's like, if you're the Oilers and you can't come to an agreement with McDavid, and it's clear you can't, do you put all your chips in the middle of the table and say, let's try for one more year and then we lose them and we figure things out from there?
That's the thing.
Yes. Or do you punt, which would be trading him to the Panthers? You say, we're not going for it this year, but let's load up on some other guys. There's merit to that too, because you still have Draisaitl, you still have Bouchard, you still have legit guys on that roster. And if you were to get some young roster players from the Panthers, whether it's like a Samoskevich or if someone down the middle, Frindell, right? I think Lindell. Like, let's say it's an Essa Lindell or something, right? Like
Anton, right? Essa's the one in Dallas.
That's right. Yes.
Essa's the one in Dallas, right? Yeah.
Anton Lindell. Third time's the charm there. If you want to do that, like you could make the case they're filling out their roster a little bit. I don't know. And they're getting something and they're not losing McDavid for him. So it's not a crazy idea. I don't hate that. Like,
no,
that's fun.
It's one of those things that, like, for the Oilers to do that, they have to have such a catastrophic collapse out of the gate, the likes we've never seen. Because I think what's really going to happen is they're going to take this to the end and, they're not going to trade him unless, again, it is, picture last year's start to the season for the Bruins times 50. Like, that's the only way the Oilers really conceivably get rid of McDavid.
Yeah, I just can't see them letting him go. That is the greatest player in the history of the league. I cannot see them letting him go. I can't. Even like you saw, whatever it takes to sign that guy, you do, because you also have Draisaitl. And again, if they're like, if they did let McDavid go, I guess they could say to a guy like Draisaitl, who's signed there now long term, is like, we need more of a full team. Can't just be like, you and him. We've got to have a more well-rounded team. But still, McDavid's a hard one to let go. That's a tough one. But yeah, I like the idea. Florida's bold enough to do it. But I do wonder, like, What are the Panthers this year? Are they a team that falls out of it in the Atlantic? Do they fall back? I can't imagine they do, but there are a
No.
lot of teams, be it the Canadians, the Senators, who are knocking on the door, throwing the Red Wings, who are a little bit further behind them, that are knocking on that door. And I do wonder, like, a lot of people say, like, oh, is this the time for the Bruins to ascend back
No.
into the playoff picture? I don't see that. There are teams
No.
above you and better than you on paper who would be more in the position to take the Panthers spot than you.
The team that I see that right now is looking at this whole situation with the Panthers and that's licking their lips is their in-state rival, the Lightning. That seems like the team that I feel like everyone is forgetting about in the East. Because the Panthers are, the talk of the league. Maple Leafs are always, there's always some drama going on with them. There's the Red Wings who are up and coming, the Senators who are up and coming, the Red Wings who no one knows what they're doing. The Bruins are falling.
Sabres stink.
Yeah, so I feel like because the Lightning have been just so consistently good for the last 10 years or so. It feels like people kind of forget they were a really good, they're a loaded roster, and they're well coached. They have good goaltending. To me, the Lightning are the team that benefits the most from the Panthers and even that I still think the Panthers are the playoff team. If anything, I just means the Panthers go from 1 in the East to 3.
Yeah.
That's all it means. I don't think that it opens the door for the Bruins at all whatsoever. If anything, I think it means that those Bruins-Panthers games are a little bit more competitive than they would have been otherwise. But if you're sitting and looking at this and like, oh my God, we have a chance if you're the Bruins, not much more than you already have.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Andrew, what can the people look forward to from you over at Boston Hockey Now?
Just everyday coverage. I'm around the team pretty much every day. Follow me on Twitter. That's I'm sure people are gonna mess up how to spell my last name, but F as in Frank, Antucchio. Read me on BostonHockeyNow.com, and just reach out. You got questions or interact. I'm always around.
Hell yeah, that's Bruins Beat. I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Bruins Beat listeners have a great rest of your week.